What would you tell to Native folks who are feeling confused about what they're seeing in the media, who are feeling conflicted and aren't really sure about what's happening?
Yeah, I would say it's not complicated. This is not about religion. This is actually about settler colonialism, right? And apartheid and genocide. There's right and there's wrong, and those are not okay. They're not acceptable. This isn't as confusing as the media likes to tell us. We know that they make up lies about us when we have direct actions, when we protest, when we try to protect Mother Earth. And so therefore, why would they not be lying about our Palestinian relatives as well? And so I think that you need to continue to push through the propaganda and really dive deep and understand what our ancestors did to protect our lands is similarly what's happening here.
I'm from Socialist Revolution, just the U.S. section of the International Marxist Tendency. Well, we stand wholeheartedly with Palestine and the Palestinian people. We believe they have every right to resist. They're occupiers, they're colonizers.
What would you say for the people that come here that are pro-Hamas?
Yeah, I'd say that obviously I understand where they're coming from. The Palestinians are being brutalized so bad, and Hamas is right now the only person fighting, the only organization fighting back.
They want to kill all Jews. It's in their charter.
It was removed from their charter, but at one point, yes, it was.
I mean, they just did that the other day.
Yeah.
Hamas, do you think they're a terror organization, or is it justified?
I see them more as freedom fighters than terrorist organizations.
Word. Do you guys think Hamas is a terrorist organization?
They are a political organization. I think that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
I live in New York, so do we live on stolen land here too?
Yeah, we do.
It's all a genocide that either was completed or
People look at me.
Like 1,400 people in one day. It's the largest killing since the Holocaust.
What?
It's the largest killing of Jews. Largest killing of Jews since the Holocaust.
Since the Holocaust, yeah. Okay.
Excuse me, what group are you in?
I'm just making YouTube videos.
What's your channel?
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Hamas invaded Israel on the 7th of October. What was your initial reaction to that?
I don't believe they did, did they? Hamas? I think so. Honestly, I think I need to be a bit more clued up on everything that's going on. So I feel like I'm not really qualified to answer that too well.
I mean, I'm not sure if I've seen anything that shows that that's actually happened.
Your thoughts on Hamas?
Hamas is Israel.
I believe the October 7th attack was done by Israel.
Yes, I think people that funded the Holocaust is the same people that are doing the same thing to the Palestinian people.
It's impossible for Hamas to cause that much damage. And it's reasonable to say that the IDF caused all the damage, most of the damage, in that concert.
What do you think is the main issue in this conflict?
I think the Israel state shouldn't exist in the first place, honestly.
River to the sea, Palestine will be free.
What happens to Israel?
Curious.
Palestinians have every right to resist the way they are resisting, but no one has the right to tell them how to resist.
Oh my God! Are you guys violent? Are you guys
Hamas is not a terrorist group. Hamas is not a terrorist group.
What is it, like a motorcycle club?
It is a resistance that has been fuming for 75 years of colonialism, of occupation, of murder, of rape, of little children, of women. That's what they are. They are resistance.
Do you think Canada is a colonialist country too?
Everything that they do is justified.
Including what happened last week?
Every single thing they have done is justified.
Ma'am, there were children murdered, there were babies beheaded.
Babies beheaded, really? Please educate yourself.
Thanks for joining me. Why are you here today?
Well, I think it's quite clear that Israel is enacting terrorism on the people of Palestine in Gaza, murdering children, murdering anyone who stands in their way. And so I think it's important to stand for what you believe in and to call for a ceasefire.
Of course, this was all started by a terrorist act committed by Hamas on October the 7th. Do you condemn Hamas now? Do you accept that they're a terrorist organisation?
I condemn Israel using the excuse.
Do you condemn Hamas?
I condemn Israel.
Do you condemn Hamas? You've already condemned Israel. Now, do you condemn Hamas?
I don't think that needs to be the first question that's being asked. It was Israel using the excuse of the attack.
So do you condemn the terrorist act of Israel or not?
Of course I condemn the attack.
Well, it took quite a lot to get it out of you.
Are they a terror group?
Everybody knows what they are.
Are they a terror group?
Look, Piers,
can you say it?
Piers, can we have a discussion?
Can you say it?
Can we have a discussion?
Can you call them a terror
Piers,
group? Jeremy?
Can we have a discussion?
Can you call them a terror
Piers,
group?
Is it possible to have a rational discussion?
Are you
with
prepared to call Hamas a terror group?
Is it possible to have a rational discussion
can
with
you?
Is it possible? Come on, answer that question.
You can't, can you?
You answer it.
No, it's my show. You answer my question.
Well,
are Hamas a terror group?
Listen, can I?
Are they a terror group?
Piers, can I speak?
Answer the question.
Can I speak?
Are they a terror group?
Piers.
No, then, no.
If you let me speak,
are they a terror group?
If you'll let me speak, I'll say something.
Go on then.
A ceasefire means both sides.
You said that. Are they a terror group?
Listen, I said that because
are they a terror
is
group?
Part of the process.
Are they a terror group?
Can we go?
Why can't you say it?
Piers, can we go through what ought to be happening?
Just answer my question.
Why do you think
are Hamas a terror group
in the world are calling for a ceasefire?
Are Hamas a terror group?
Come on, answer that. Give it to me.
No, it's not your show.
You've got so many opinions.
Why should I answer yours when you won't answer mine?
Why do you give out your opinions all day and every day?
Are Hamas?
You don't like it
are
when
Hamas
somebody pushes it back on you.
Are Hamas a terror group? Yes or no?
You won't like it when somebody pushes back on you. What I've said is,
I've asked you two questions: should Hamas stay in power, and are they a terror group? You're refusing to answer either of them. That is very telling. And you wonder,
it's not very telling
and you wonder why people think you had a problem with Jewish people.
At all.
Well, look. So first of all, I mean, the Israeli government, the military in particular, has a long history of disinformation and manipulation.
So you're telling me what we're seeing in the videos is made up? Because if that's the argument, at least I understand it. So you're saying none of this actually happened, right?
What exactly happened will have to be investigated, and it will become clear.
And then if it turns out that it's right, hang on, let me ask you this: if it turns out that what we hear is right, will you then be able to say, okay, I can now appreciate the fact that it was terrorism?
I will look.
Hey, Ben Shapiro, I just had a quick question for you. So
I have a question. Can I see your face, or is it like prohibited?
I just don't want to associate my face with like my politics.
Is there a reason for that?
I just don't want worried about my career. Is that okay?
Well, it depends about what you're about to say.
Okay, so can I just ask it?
You can ask it, and then we'll determine whether you are a person who should not be able to get a job.
Okay.
Sure.
So I just want to know, how hard was it to generate AI generated images of Hamas?
So you should take off your mask now. Not really because what you're saying is so anti-Semitic, but just because what you're saying is so unbelievably stupid that I hope employers take a good stock of a person who does something so dumb. So mask stays on. Mask stays on. Yeah, I figured. Okay.
We do have information that Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad uses some hospitals in the Gaza Strip, including the Al-Shifa hospital, as a way to conceal and support their military operations and hold hostages. They have tunnels underneath these hospitals. So I'm just telling you what we as the intelligence community assesses is happening in Gaza City, how Hamas is using these hospitals to operate.
There aren't any tunnels in Gaza. There are tunnels in Gaza, but not in the hospital. Not in the hospital. You can't. No, let me answer you. Why don't you give me the chance to answer? Tell me how you know. Because people who are there are reporting we have 17 medical teams working there. We have medical people working in the hospital. I know. And don't interrupt me. Let me say what I wanted to say.
I will ask President Netanyahu to put on the table the proofs and the evidence that there is a control and command center for the Palestinian resistance in Shifa Hospital. We have heard these claims since 2009. Now, I have been working in Shifa for 16 years on and off, in very hectic periods. I've been able to walk freely around. I take lots of pictures, I video film, I've been sleeping in the hospital during bombardment. I've been all over. I've never been restricted, controlled. Nobody has ever controlled my picture and documentation material. So, well, if there is a command center, show us.
Because it's something that everybody knows, a lot of people know about you, is that after the September the 11th attacks in 2001, you made some comments. You said, I'm upset by the terrorist attack, but I'm at least as upset over the suffering that the US has caused. It is in this context that 5,000 dead has been seen. If the US government has a legitimate right to bomb and kill civilians in Iraq, the oppressed have a moral right to attack the US. And you were criticised for sounding as though you were condoning the September the 11th attacks. You've paid a price for being outspoken.
As you know, I have 4, 5, 6, 7 times denounced that interview and the content of it. I denounce and I absolutely condemn any attack on civilian targets from anybody. So that's totally clear.
Spoken to a British doctor who worked at Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital for 3 months in 2021. He told her of non-medical men loitering and disappearing into the basement.
The main point was when I was first asked to work there, I was told there was a part of the hospital I was not to go near, and if I did, I'd be in danger of being shot.
Shot? You mean actually shot with a gun?
Yes.
Was it explained to you why that was?
No, but implicit was that it was being used for non-medical purposes.
And did you see anything non-medical, or did you obey the instructions and stay away?
I stayed away, but I saw a few sort of dodgy-looking non-medical characters going in and out all the time. It was a ward leading to a basement. As I say, I didn't go there, so I behaved myself.
They would say there could be many other reasons that you would be told not to go to a particular area of a hospital. It's not unusual.
Well, I was welcome everywhere else, and as I say, the doctors and nurses there were very welcoming and very kind. And the hushed tones under which this was said was consistent with all the other hushed tones about which Hamas was discussed. You know, people were genuinely fearful. I cannot emphasize too much the air of collective paranoia that existed there.
And now an apology from the BBC. BBC News, as it covered initial reports that Israeli forces has entered Gaza's main hospital. We said that medical teams and Arab speakers were being targeted. This was incorrect and misquoted a Reuters report. We should have said IDF forces included medical teams and Arabic speakers for this operation. So we apologise for this error, which fell below our usual editorial standards.
In discovering munitions, weapon caches, and tonight we found the first very sophisticated shaft. This shaft was in a sheltered area inside the hospital under a car that was full of weapons, ready for forces that came near the hospital.
We weren't allowed to enter the shaft, but the Israeli military sent special gear down to see where this leads. Inside, the video shows a spiral staircase, and as the camera orients itself, it moves forward into a tunnel. The tunnel makes a sharp left turn, and at the end of another path with concrete walls and an arched concrete top, a metal door they say they have not yet opened because they fear it's booby-trapped.
I need you to stop what you're doing and go read A Letter to America.
TikTok users this week discovered a new life-changing author, Osama bin Laden.
This morning I read Letter to America, which is Osama bin Laden's letter to America explaining why he attacked Americans. And I am ashamed to say that I not only have never read this letter, but I didn't even know this letter existed. It's wild, and everyone should read it.
I need everyone to stop what they're doing right now and go read. It's literally 2 pages. Go read A Letter to America. And please come back here and just let me know what you think, because I feel like I'm going through like an existential crisis right now, and a lot of people are. So I just need someone else to be feeling this too. I will never look at life the same. I will never look at this country the same. I will never. Please read it.
And actually, before you even read the letter, I did want to mention, in reading the letter, I could only think of this tweet that I saw the other day. Under settler colonialism, any kind of resistance is branded as terrorist because the only acceptable violence is violence by the occupier.
It's actually so mind-fucking to me that terrorism has been sold as this idea to the American people that This group of people, this random group of people just suddenly wakes up one day and just fucking hates you, just wants you dead, wants you gone. But reading this letter, it becomes apparent to me that the actions of 9/11 and those acts committed against the USA and its people were all just the buildup of our government failing other nations.
The way this letter is going viral right now is giving me the greatest sense of relief. If you're Muslim and you've lived in the US since 9/11, you know more truth than the typical citizen. Now it's all coming to light because of Palestine.
Searches for bin Laden up 400% on YouTube, and on X, formerly Twitter, references to him up 4,000% since Tuesday. X did not respond to our request for comment. The issue reaching even the White House, with the spokesperson saying there is never a justification for spreading the repugnant, evil, and anti-Semitic lies that the leader of al-Qaeda issued just after committing the worst terrorist attack in American history.
So, Jake, how did this bin Laden letter take off online this week?
Well, Jose, it seems to have begun earlier this week around Tuesday. That is when researchers have found that the references to bin Laden have leapt by 4,300% between Tuesday and Thursday of this week. And that's because all across social media, people began sharing references to and in some cases videos praising of that letter to America. They do not tend to make mention, however, of the rest of that letter, which is, of course, full of anti-Semitic and homophobic slurs.
Yeah, but I mean, Jake, TikTok is a Chinese-owned app. It says that it has about 150 million active users here in the U.S.
They're trying to figure out, is there something else behind it driving this snowball downhill as it got bigger? Is it a bot? Is it an AI feature?
But I also want to point out that we have a major generational problem. All the polling I've seen, ADL's polling, ICC's polling, independent polling, suggests this is not a left-right gap, folks. The issue in the United States of support for Israel is not left and right. It is young and old. And the numbers of young people who think that Hamas's, massacre was justified is shockingly and terrifyingly high. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem.
Back here in the U.S. tonight, there is growing concern over threats here at home. Tonight, the FBI is now investigating threatening posts targeting Jewish students at Cornell University. Here's ABC's Stephanie Ramos tonight.
Tonight, New York State Police guarding the Jewish Student Center at Cornell University. The FBI now investigating after a slew of disturbing online posts threatened violence against Jewish students.
Why are these people on the truck?
These are leaders of student organizations that signed a message blaming Israel entirely for what happened over the weekend. I'm Adam Gillette with Accuracy in Media. How are you? They clearly do, many of these people. Isn't that a problem?
That's not true.
The students who signed the proclamation blaming Israel, did they hate Jews?
No, that's not.
No? Can I help you?
You. I cannot believe you type of people call this anti-Semitic.
Blaming Israel for the decapitation of babies indicates a little bit of anti-Semitism, don't you think?
Reports that the decapitation wasn't true or verified.
Joe Biden said he saw photos of it. Was Joe Biden lying?
I'm not saying that. You are an anti-Semite for conflating Israel's apartheid regime with the idea of Judaism.
Don't touch my stuff. Don't you dare touch my stuff.
Get the out of here.
Don't
You're
touch my
causing
stuff.
people actual harm.
This year, I'm a visiting scholar at Harvard, and Harvard has an anti-Semitism problem. It's not alone. It shares it with my alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania, with GW, with Columbia, with a lot of universities in different ways. I and a lot of other people of goodwill are fighting against this, both publicly and privately. And I hope that we can make progress because the problem is real, and it is not small.
Quote, gang rape all Jew pig woman on campus. That is what my peers and I experienced last week when reading the multiple online threats made by a fellow student instructing other Cornell students to assault Jews on campus, to follow them home, and slit their throats. The sentiment did not begin with that student. Professors and student organizations have been fueling Jew hatred and spreading it across campus with disregard or potentially even with deliberate intent to incite.
Free Palestine! Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism!
Committee will be in war. Committee will be in order.
So I just got back to the US from Israel, and first evening on campus, I see anti-Semitic slogans all over our walkway, to classes, to the dining room, to everything. I really wonder if this was aimed at any other minority, what would have happened to these people who organized this and were allowed to do this without any circumstance, without any punishment. I really want to know. Still waiting for AU to take some action. It's been taking a month. Haven't done anything with all the anti-Semitism that's been going on, people getting threats. Nothing is being done by AU administration. We're waiting. If you're saying that you are doing something, then show us the Jewish students.
The part that seeking the emotion that this brought about more people that
So I'm Jewish. I'm very pro-Israel. And when I walked my way through, I kept hearing, "Down with Israel." And one of them, a woman, yelled out, "Shame on you, Professor Strauss. Shame on you." I immediately yelled back, "No, shame on you. You were ignorant about Hamas. Hamas are murderers. That's all they are. They should all die, every one of them." And that "they should all die, every one of them" referred, of course, to Hamas.
Don't interact with them.
People are ignorant. Really?
Professor Strauss, I believe.
That's all they are. Everyone should be killed, and I hope they all.
To stop by a memorial meant to honor people's lives that were killed, who some of these students called family, and then to say everyone should be killed. He's equating them with a terror, quote unquote, organization. Altogether, you paint a very startling picture of the way the anti-Arab sentiment is displaying itself on this campus.
I started getting emails, things from "I hope you die, you fascist pig," to "Palestine forever," to "I hope you're fired." Frankly, I'd like the whole administrative leave thing to be canceled so I can come back on campus, but we'll see.
At George Washington University, the words "Glory to our martyrs" beamed on the side of a building.
Students at the University of Wisconsin-Madison chanted, "Glory to the martyrs."
Glory to the martyrs!
Cornell University professor Russell Rickford called the Hamas killings exhilarating.
It was exhilarating, it was energizing.
And an instructor at Stanford making Jewish students stand in a corner while publicly referring to them as colonizers.
What is the path forward? Do you see one?
I don't know. Truly, I don't know what the path forward is. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm screaming from the rooftops that Jewish students are not okay. That's why I'm trying to tell as many people as I can that the rape of women and the slaughter of babies is not resistance. It's not justified. Like Bella just said, there's no context that we could give in order to justify this. And like Bella, there are professors on my campus. A professor published something that said that Hamas's actions were awesome. Awesome, full stop.
Does that professor still have a job?
That professor's tenured. And that professor is who's teaching people like me, 18-year-olds, about the Middle East.
Flavor is available on Amazon as it was at the beginning.
What school do you go to? What school do you go to? What school do you go to, miss?
There's more of this. Please stop ripping posters down. These are innocent
civilians in Israel.
Fuck you, fuck Israel.
Bitch. Fuck you. These are our family members. We have family there.
Fuck you, bitch. Fuck you too, bitch. Fuck you. And Israel.
Don't rip down these posters.
Fuck you in that propaganda.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you taking those down? What's your name? Excuse me, why are you taking down photos of kidnapped children?
Excuse me, why are you taking those off? Why are you taking those off?
Because it's causing the conflict to be worse.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
By you taking those off, you know what it does? It
Because
shows
it
that
can't
Jewish
help.
victims are not okay. Excuse me, why are you taking those off? Do you have anything to say about stuff? No, can you not take this off?
I already took
My
them.
friend's
They're
one of those
making the
200 people.
conflict worse.
My friend is one of those people, and you're taking them
And
off?
that's sad, but I don't see how that helps the conflict.
I'm asking you, did you take down the posters of the hostages?
Yeah, because you're propagating propaganda.
Okay. Were there
propaganda.
innocent civilians taken in by Hamas terrorists and being held as hostages? I'm serious question.
Yes, there were.
Okay.
And they're still there. And when they offered them back to the Israeli government told them you can keep them.
Did Hamas, a terrorist organization, take innocent civilians from their house, rape them, beat them, murder them, and take them as
Rape
hostages?
them? You mean Israeli people have been doing that to Palestinians? Yes.
Don't take down hostage signs. This is peaceful activism. Don't take down hostage signs that are part of your propaganda.
Activism. You're encouraging people to have false beliefs over people who are being oppressed. That's what you're doing.
Okay, false beliefs that there are innocent civilians who happen to be Jewish, that you have a problem with me posting signs that they are being hostages. They're hostages.
You're jumping into conclusions.
These are hostages. These are innocent people being taken as hostages.
Misinformation. That's what I'm doing.
It's misinformation that these people are in underground tunnels being held by Hamas terrorists. That's what you're saying is a misinformation.
Have you? I'm not gonna go.
The Jewish community in this city is terrified, as you can understand. They're human beings. So what about this is incorrect? Truly, like, I want to know, I'm not trying to be an asshole.
No,
What
because
about
you know that there has been negotiations with the Israeli government. They've been like, okay, keep them.
75 years worth, but what about this is incorrect?
No, that you know that it
encourages people to have those beliefs that Hamas are terrorists.
Excuse me, why are you tearing down the posters? Yeah, it's pretty fucked up that you're doing this.
It's pretty fucked up that you ain't educated.
No, I'm pretty educated, man. I'm from Israel. I know exactly what's going on over there.
From there? Oh,
yeah.
Oh, how many fucking houses have you stolen?
Hey, do me a favor, man. What's your name?
Do me a favor.
What's your name?
Go fuck yourself.
That's not a name.
Thank you. Yeah, they are, but don't worry about it.
No, don't worry. I'm not doing any physical harm to this guy. Oh, you too?
Thank you.
All right, listen, say hello. Your face is going to be on the internet.
Yeah, it is. And
no,
guess
it
what?
is.
Track me.
Her
Track
too?
me. I fucking dare you.
I have no reason to track you. I just want people to see what the face of anti-Semitism looks like. It's really messed up that you're doing this. Her too, buddy.
No, I've been going around the city.
No. Listen, I'm open to reason.
You don't reason with them.
This isn't reasoning. This isn't reasoning. This is plain anti-Semitism. It's messed up. You guys should be ashamed of yourself. Go ahead, finish this.
What are you taking that down for?
Because it doesn't need to be there. Please don't film me.
You're taking down the sign for
Dude, fuck off. Please don't film me, please.
So, this is in Montclair. The sign, she just took it off.
Dude, I don't want to be on the internet. Please don't film me.
Why'd you take it off then?
I'm asking you to go away, please.
Why'd you take it off for?
Because it doesn't need to be there. Thank
Why?
you. You can go away now, please.
Why are you taking it off for? So why'd you take the sign off? It's right here. There's no reason to be taking it off. It doesn't bother you. So why are you taking the sign off for?
Please go away.
What was your issue with the sign?
I don't want to talk to you. I would like you to go away, please.
So do you have a problem with people who are abducted by Hamas?
Dude, fuck off. I need you to go away, please.
I'm just asking you why you took it off.
I don't want you to be several times to go away. Please
So
go the fuck away.
I'm not going away.
We have asked you several times, very politely, to go away. So leave.
It's not polite to take down the sign.
It's not polite to stand here and film us when we're asking you not to. So fuck off.
I'm not going to.
Please leave us alone.
So why'd you take it off for?
You're not gonna go away? We tell you you're not gonna go away. We don't tell you. Fuck off.
here. Stay here.
Kalba. All right, I think that's good. You don't even know why you
There's been on social media and frankly on news broadcasts a lot of videos of individuals who have been tearing down signs, many of these taking place in New York City, of Israelis presently being held hostage in Gaza. There have been some tense confrontations that have taken place there. Is the White House's view that these actions should be condemned, the pulling down of them, or that that's a form of peaceful protest?
Look, I've sort of kind of seen the reporting here and there. I think it was from last week,
There's
right?
been like 30 million videos that have gone around.
No,
so
I know, I hear you. I hear you. I'm just not going to. I'm not going to. I'm not going.
Is that peaceful protest to pull that down, or should you not be doing
I'm just
that?
not going to go into specifics on that particular thing. What I can say, there are real violent protests and threats that are happening right now, and senior administration officials are aware of these reports, which are deeply concerning, and that is something that we're focused on, right?
You guys are taking our fucking money.
See, that's what it is.
Bastards. Hitler should have fucking finished the job. He knew what the fuck he was doing. Oh, wow. Can you call us safe? Don't forget what you did in 1948. Don't forget what you did in 1948.
We're going to f***ing out f***ing Nazis.
Shut up! Free Palestine, bro. Get your shit out of here.
What's wrong
bro.
with you?
Yeah, what is wrong with you?
Your whole country's gonna burn in hell.
A lot is wrong with him.
Read the news, buddy.
20 years, Israel's gonna be forgotten and you. All y'all are going to f***ing out f***ing Nazis.
My name is John Levine. I am a reporter at the New York Post, and on Sunday I attended a rally in New York City for Hamas, and it was organized in part by the Democratic Socialists of America. And while I was at this rally, I saw a lot of very curious people, hundreds of people in fact, dressed up as Hamas fighters and various other terrorist or Islamic Jihad garb. And it was very disturbing. A number of them were chanting "Death to Israel" or "We want it all" or various other chants. And these are things that I heard and other people heard. You know, this is not like a normal protest where we all just go home afterwards. These people are on the subway with us. These people are in the movie theaters with us. These people are at the airport with us. One of the most notable facets of this rally was that it was organized by the Democratic Socialists of America, which is a pretty powerful political force in this country. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Representative Jamal Bowman, both from New York, are members of the Democratic Socialists of America. A number of city council members and state lawmakers are members of the Democratic Socialists of America. Many of those individuals have said nothing.
Black Lives Matter sparking outrage today. The Chicago BLM chapter posted on X an image of a paraglider, just like the terrorists, with a fluttering Palestinian flag above the words, "I stand with Palestine." And the comment, "That is all, that is it." BLM chapters, including those in Louisville, Detroit, and Los Angeles, also showed their support, reposting that image.
Alicia Keys found herself facing backlash from social media after posting a photo of herself with a caption, question, "What would you do if you weren't afraid of anything? Tell me your truth. I've had my eyes on paragliding." Now, some folks took offense to her post and accused Alicia of supporting the terrorist acts in Israel, where paragliders were used by terrorists as an attack method. And these things may very well not have been even related. Al, what do you think?
I think it could be two things could be true at the same time. I don't think that Alicia Keys had any idea that a part of the Hamas used paragliding.
Of course they're tripping. And listen, I know what's going on over there in Israel and Palestine is bad. But the Israeli people over here in the U.S., y'all are really making it hard for people to exist. I mean, every little thing, oh, you're anti-Semitic, oh, you're against Israel. And it's like, come on, that lady was simply talking about paragliding and y'all turned this into something that it wasn't. Y'all got to back up just a little bit.
I agree. I mean, and I pride myself on being someone that, follows pretty much what's going on. And as far as the paragliding part of it, I wasn't that hip to that. I wasn't familiar with that, but I knew about the bombing. I knew about that, but I didn't know about the paragliding. So let's not assume the worst every single time someone posts something, and some things aren't related to what offends you. And also, I want to piggyback off of how people's sensitivities are. It's gotten to a point where people are penalizing people that have empathy for babies that are Palestinian if they get injured, that we're not supposed to have any empathy for them because they're the ones that started the attack at the music festival, just disregarding the history of what led to this, right? I'm sorry, anyone that's not a terrorist or a member of the military, like the innocent bystander just walking down the street trying to go get groceries for their kids, how dare you tell me I should not have empathy for that person just because they are not of the same background as you? Now you're just as evil as the people that you're mad at.
And yet it's become an image. And we saw protesters again in Europe who had the image of paragliders on their back. It's astonishing.
Yeah, I will tell you, as a Jew and as the son of a Holocaust survivor and as someone who's raising two children who go to a Jewish day school, I grew up with all these stories about the Holocaust, and my mother was on the run as a little girl in Eastern Europe. I was very familiar with all the stories, but I never felt vulnerable. I never felt the vulnerability that she feels. This is the first time in my life, I'm in my early 50s, that I've ever felt vulnerable, because there is real anti-Semitic violence against Jews. And there used to people say, oh, there's a distinction. You can criticize Israel and not be anti-Semitic. But why is it when things get hot in Israel, when Israel's on the receiving end of a genocidal attack and it must respond, the response from organizations here, whether they're on college campuses or protesters in the streets, is to just go get Jews and attack Jews and mobs attacking Jews. And the language they use, from the river to the sea, which is about wiping out the Jews. You don't have to read between the lines.
They're telling you this constantly. They're saying, hey, you're different, and just to let you know, it could happen again. We got to be very careful. You got to be on your P's and Q's. And you're a Western Jew that grows up in fucking New York. You grew up in LA or something. You're like, I'm just American. Yeah. I'm like a white kid from America. What are they talking about? Like, you hear about the anti-Semitism that will pop up sometimes, but you're like, I'm American. This is my parents. That was like my parents' time. And then October 7th happens, and you think the reaction is going to be empathy and sympathy and concern for you and what your people just went through, this disgusting act. But all of a sudden, you see the next day, they're like people in the streets seemingly like excited about it. Mm-hmm. And there are sections, there's not everybody, but there are people that are like chanting horribly anti-Semitic things. Yeah. All of a sudden, that voice that you quieted your whole life because you were like, that's just my grandparents being crazy. You're like, holy shit, is it true? This is a worst case scenario. We are different. They are out for us. They do hate us.
But whatever our opinions on what is happening, there can be no excuse for the behavior of some of our citizens. Since October the 7th, there have been 50 separate reported incidents of anti-Semitism every single day in London alone, an increase of 1,350% according to the Metropolitan Police. Shop windows smashed, Stars of David and swastikas daubed on walls of Jewish properties, synagogues and cemeteries. Jewish schools have been forced to close. There is real fear stalking the Jewish neighborhoods of Britain. Jewish people here are becoming fearful of showing themselves in Britain in 2023.
At the same time, there has been a significant increase of anti-Semitic acts in both the United States and around the world since that October 7th attack by Hamas on Israel. FBI Director Chris Wray said this week that anti-Semitism is reaching, quote, historic levels in the U.S.
A Jewish-owned business surrounded by protesters in Toronto. Canada's Jewish community says increasingly it's feeling under attack.
Police found the remnants of incendiary devices, Molotov cocktails, at a synagogue as well as a community center of Montreal.
These are alarming trends in our city, which prides itself in our diversity, are the likes of which we have never seen before.
Jewish businesses being targeted,
vandalized, subject to boycott.
We've gone from insults to harassment to violent harassment to actual violence.
Montreal police say since October 7th, they've seen 73 hate crimes or incidents against the Jewish community. That's more than all the hate crimes or incidents they saw against all religious groups last year. And Montreal is just one city that's witnessing a rise in hate.
So this morning, my wife and I, we decided we're leaving Canada. We're done. This is just not for us anymore. The more people I talk to, the more people are having the same thoughts. They're looking to get out of here. We're going to apply to Argentina, Colombia, Panama. Stay tuned.
It's the beginning of the end of Jewish life in Western Europe. I mean, this is a numbers game. Just to take Great Britain as an example, Britain has 400,000 Jews and 4 million Muslims. We have similar demographics in France and Germany. To whose demands do you think policymakers will be more sensitive?
Did I hear you right that you said this is the beginning of the end of Jewish life in Europe? Did you say that?
In Western Europe,
In Western Europe. I mean,
in Western Europe, absolutely.
That's a quite staggering conclusion to draw now.
Well, not really. I mean, we have polls, for example, out of France, where over 52% of Jews say that they want to leave the country. 70% say they don't think that Judaism has a future in France. And we have similar numbers out of other European countries. Jewish life in Europe has been under attack over the last couple of decades. As I said, I know this is a painful topic and we don't like to speak about it, but we need to talk about these facts.
People on the streets of London this Saturday shouting jihad. People on the streets of London carrying ISIS banners. Look at Germany. Can you believe that in Germany, of all countries in the last week, Jewish people in Berlin have had Stars of David graffitied on their front doors? So you can see all over the West, this is a massive problem, and it's not one from which America is immune.
Ray at the FBI and ask, of the attacks of a religious nature, you said some 60% are directed towards Jews in this country. Is that right?
I did, and that's before, those are estimates or statistics that are before this conflict began.
Oh, so it's probably gone up since then.
I would expect that, but we don't have good numbers yet because it's so fresh. But I think that the point that I was trying to make there, which I really think Americans need to understand, is how wildly disproportionate, if you could ever use a word like proportionate in something like this, that is. 2.4% of the American public, 60% of religious-based hate crimes. They're getting it from racially and ethnically motivated violent extremists, ISIS-inspired violent extremists, foreign terrorist organizations, whether they be Sunni like Al-Qaeda or ISIS, or Shia like Hezbollah. And so this is a group that has the outrageous distinction of being uniquely targeted, and they need our help.
Hey guys, so what is wrong with you? To all of you people marching and tearing down posters and posting crazy comments online, what is wrong with you? Who raised you? Like, we were this close to canceling Picasso a couple months ago. Picasso. But you guys will literally march in support of a bunch of religious zealot terrorists who just gang raped teenagers, children. Like, have you all lost your mind? The idea that we distance ourselves from a Democratic senator because he pantomimed a breast squeeze.
Welcome back to Inside Politics. In the 16 days since Hamas attacked Israel, anti-Semitic incidents in the United States have increased. Thank you so much for being here. You are a proud member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, but on the issue of Israel, your very vocal position is notably different from many others. For example, you wrote that the, quote, democratic socialist industrial complex indoctrinates young Americans with an anti-Israel hatred so virulent that it renders them indifferent to the deadliest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. Why do you think that is happening?
Look, there's been a concerted campaign to demonize Israel as if it is the root of all evil. And when you systematically demonize Israel, what inevitably follows is the dehumanization of Israeli victims. What inevitably follows is a democratic socialist rally that glorifies the terrorism of Hamas. You know, here in New York City, there was a Jewish woman who was punched in the face abruptly, unprovoked, simply because she was Jewish.
Congressman, your colleague, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, she is also, like you, a member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. She called you out on Friday. Listen to what she said.
How many more killings is enough for you? Is it 1,000 more? 2,000 more? 3,000 more? How many more Palestinians would make you happy if they died? Will you be fine if all of the people of Gaza were gone? Would that make you happy? Would that be the thing that makes you proud?
Something that the Black Lives Matter in Los Angeles said after the October 7th attack. They said, quote, when a people have been subject to decades of apartheid and unimaginable violence, their resistance must not be condemned, but understood as a desperate act of self-defense. That, again, was Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. What is your take on this?
I view this as a matter of human decency. This is not about politics. This is not about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This is about human decency. It is indecent to blame the victims of terrorism rather than the terrorists themselves. It is indecent to glorify terrorism as resistance. It is indecent to lionize the paragliders who gunned down 260 Israelis at a music festival. And so ultimately, for me, this is a matter of moral common sense and moral decency.
Congressman, I know that you're getting backlash for some of those comments.
There is something that, for some reason, evil is not graded the same way when it's against Jews and it's against Israel. And I don't understand that. I do understand it.
What is it?
Anti-Semitism. There's something about that, for some reason, Jews as a group, as a minority, that for some reason since the beginning of time, and I'm actually getting upset, it's somehow okay to go after these people in a way that no other people. I'm not a history student. I just know the history.
We talk a lot about silence as complicity in our politics and the weakness and cowardice of Republicans to call out someone who isn't just far to the right, but lurching toward autocratic tools and toolkits. In some ways, the silence here is more shocking to the system.
It's not just silence. It's support. It's the marching for Hamas. Marching for terrorists. It's just endorsed. And university presidents have a hard time coming out and saying that's wrong. And the media is just kind of tippy-toeing around it.
People are scared. People are scared of being canceled. There is a climate where there is a chill. I'll just say it. There's a chill. Why is that?
Because people feel the hatred and they see it. And the chill is, why are people not talking about it? That's a question for scholars over time.
No,
and
it's not,
the answer is people. I'll tell you the answer is that the Jews are treated different than other groups. That there's a dislike. That there is somehow that Jews being hurt or being slaughtered is different than other people being hurt. That somehow they have it coming to them. Yeah, I said it. That's what this is about.
It's just amazing to me that this anti-Israel, and I've got to call it for how I see it, anti-Semitic ideology seems to be taking over the whole world.
Yeah.
New York, there were police who barricaded themselves in a room while pro-Hamas demonstrators were smashing doors. In England and the United States, the police do nothing. They simply do nothing. And the media don't report what is being done. Tell you, the importing of millions of people from the Middle East, thanks to the European Union, thanks to the fools who think that they can work on the basis of compassion. All you need to have is compassion, and you know the right thing to do. I had compassion, and I mean it. What Syria did, what Arab did to Arab, but as I warned at the time, people who emigrate to other places, there's one thing they bring. They may not even bring their money. They may not bring any of their property other than a suitcase. They certainly don't bring their home, but they do bring their values. And the Middle East is saturated with exterminationist Jew hatred, truly analogous to that of the Nazis. I've never used a parallel to the Nazis in my life. We have one.
It's an ancient, ancient hatred. Perhaps the most ancient among the monotheisms. And the deepest and the ugliest, the nastiest. And the one that has been least addressed. And we've imported it.
I don't even know what the f*** to say anymore. I really don't. The levels of hatred, racism, bigotry, arrogance, ignorance, and human wickedness I've seen over the past few weeks, fucking staggering. It's mind-boggling that this is 2023. I'm ashamed to even be breathing some of the fucking same air as you fucking scumbags. Somebody asked me the other day if I think a revolution is coming. We're in one fucking now. The whole world is at war fucking now. And it is a war to save the soul of fucking humanity. And everybody needs to pick a fucking side because we are fighting pure fucking evil.
I think this is a war on the mind, a war on the soul. And
Israel really is marked out as distinct from any other country.
But it's not an Israeli problem. It's a UK problem. I've been there to the demonstrations. I've seen the people chanting on the streets about the destruction of Israel, about jihad, about intifada. Israel might be first, but it will certainly not be last.
You and I grew up with the statement, أولاً يأتي السبت وبعده الأحد. First comes Saturday, then comes Sunday. First we kill the Jews, then we come for the Christians. We've heard that since we were 10 years old, you and I.
Yeah,
since
exactly.
we grew up all over the Middle East. So the West needs to wake up and understand the monster we are fighting.
Who's the biggest enemy in the world today? Israel and USA. Oh, I don't know. Pause it. I don't know if you could hear. That's English. That's not a foreign country. This is freaking Boston.
That is outside the public
Boston,
library
Massachusetts.
of Boston.
لابد أن نقول إن فلسطين من بحرها إلى نهرها أرض الإسلام وإن إسبانيا الأندلس أرض إسلام وإن البقاع الإسلامية التي احتلها الأعداء يوما ستعود إسلامية ونبشرهم بأننا على موعد أن نفتح روما كما فتحت القسطنطينية وكما ستفتح إننا على موعد أن نحكم العالم كما قال الحبيب المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم.
As a Sufi Muslim, I'm very ruffled by the title of your book. Did you have to settle for the literal negation of Allahu Akbar?
Yes. I thought so. Thank you for that. Thank you. At the moment, it's very clear to me the most toxic form that religion takes is the Islamic form. The horrible idea of wanting to end up with Sharia, the state of religious law, and that the best means of getting there is jihad, holy war, and that Muslims have a special right to feel aggrieved enough to demand this, I think is absolute obscene.
I've often thought of this. Until as late as basically the 10th of September 2001, if you said, in the early years of the 21st century, politicians, journalists, public intellectuals and others are going to spend years talking about Islam. Say, what? Why? How come?
That is a bit surreal, isn't it?
So here's the deep underlying thing, which is that religion's back, and most people in the West don't know how to talk about it. A little while ago, I was speaking to a TV producer who came over to me at a party somewhere and said it was at the height of ISIS, and she said, "What do ISIS want, Douglas?" And I thought, oh, okay. Well,
they're actually quite upfront about it generally.
Yeah, they're quite. They've done a lot of speaking about this and a lot of writing, and they basically want to bring about they invite the world to Islam and bring about the end times. And this woman looked at me and she said, like, she said, well, that's ridiculous. I mean, they can't. I said, what do they really want? And I said, Well, they say that they want to invite the world to Islam, or their version of Islam, and then bring about the end of times. And she just looked at it like, I don't see that. I don't. So, and then I realized, well, if I just said to her, basically what ISIS are after is like a 2.5% reduction in VAT, she'd have been all over it. Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. Well, would they settle for 1.2? You know, we'd have been able to talk about it.
He's been called the most dangerous philosopher in the West, and in his new book, Refugees, Terror and Other Troubles with the Neighbours, Slavoj Žižek calls for a defence of the European Enlightenment project and rails against the romanticisation of refugees. So I began by asking why he thinks refugees pose such a threat to so-called European values. And then you say stuff like, page 6 of this book, we are definitely in the midst of the clash of civilizations, Christian West versus radicalized Islam. How is that not the rhetoric of the far right? My answer to all I'm saying is, do you accept that Marine Le Pen could also say the words, we are definitely in the midst of the clash of civilizations, Christian West versus radicalized Islam? You can imagine her saying that. Yeah, but she would. Refugees come from a culture that is incompatible with Western European notions of human rights. I wonder if I said this precisely. You said it precisely on page 107 of your book.
So hold on, are you the person who understands the officially codified doctrine of Islam? You're the interpreter of that, so you can say, well, this is...
I'm actually well educated on this topic, and we have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want to criticize bad ideas.
But Islam at this moment is the motherlode of bad ideas. Jesus. So we have... Nick,
or how about the more than 1 billion people who aren't fanatical, who don't punch women, who just want to go to the store, wait a second. Wait a second. And don't do any of the things that you're saying all Muslims...
Truth has become a right-wing concept. You cannot say it. Because if you say it, you are considered right-wing. And to be right-wing is to be in league with the forces of evil. Education was turned from being the transmission of a culture down through the generations into the overturning of a culture on the basis that the culture was illegitimate, racist, colonialist, and all the rest of it. And we are where we are.
Me personally, I can't wait for the Muslims to take over. I'm even developing the beard. Does that freak anyone out? Personally, I can't wait. I'm sure their system is fairer. And there isn't a bunch of sick, progressive horror going on.
Through, this entire thing with Palestine, so many more people are learning about Islam, and so many more people are reading the Quran. I've read the Quran. I love the Quran. I think it's a beautiful piece of text. I think that it's wonderful. I've seen people be like, wow, this is really interesting. Honey, you're next.
The only place I could find in the world where you weren't pushed this atheism, nihilistic, you're worthless idea that we come from nothing was Muslim countries. And I started to realize that the enemy of my enemy was in fact my friend. The same people who want to send me to war, put me in debt and turn my wife into a prostitute, they were the same people that were telling me Islam was bad. And then I realized that the whole anti-Muslim propaganda that we've been fed in the West was a trick. It was to get us to go to war and pick up a gun and shoot our fellow brothers under Allah for banks, because Muslims would not take sodomy, they would not take pornography.
I come from Lebanon. I was born and raised in Lebanon, which used to be the only majority Christian country in the Middle East. We were open-minded, we were fair, we were tolerant, we were multicultural. We prided ourselves in our multiculturalism. We had open border policy. We welcomed everyone to come to our country because we wanted to share with them the westernization which we had created in the heart of the Arabic world. In 1965, National Geographic magazine had on its front cover, Lebanon, Eden of the Middle East. Unfortunately, all this began to change as the years went by. The Christians had become the minority, and the Muslims had become the majority in Lebanon. And as the Islamic population grew in the country, the country became less and less tolerant. The problem was contained until the influx of the Palestinians out of Jordan in 1970, when Lebanon brought them in because we already had refugee camps. Actually, at that time, Lebanon was the only country in the Middle East to accept the third wave of Palestinians into Lebanon. The majority of them were Muslims. They put their heads together with the Muslims in Lebanon and declare jihad on the Christians. What they wanted to do is create a base from which to fight Israel, kill the Jews, and throw them into the sea. They were able to come to Lebanon, use our open-mindedness, our fairness, our tolerance, our multiculturalism, and our democracy to topple our democracy. My 9/11 happened to me in 1975. When radical Muslims blew up my home, bringing it down, burying me under the rubble wounded, as they shouted, Allahu Akbar. My only crime was that I was a Christian living in a Christian town. I ended up in a hospital for 2.5 months. And as I laid in a hospital bed, hooked up to IVs in both arms, I would ask my parents, why did they do this to us? Why did they attack us? And my father would tell me, because we are Christians, the Muslims consider us infidels and they want to kill us. So I knew since I was a 10-year-old child that I am wanted dead simply because I was born into the Christian faith and lived in a Christian town.
To part of the question on the issues of refugees coming to Jordan, and I think I can quite strongly speak on behalf not only of Jordan as a nation, but of our friends in Egypt. That is a red line. No refugees in Jordan, no refugees in Egypt.
And let me say this in English so you can understand what I'm saying.
I have translation.
No, I know you have translation, but I just want to make sure you get it right. There will come a day that we will see far more radical extremists and terrorists coming out of Europe because of the lack of decision-making, trying to be politically correct, or assuming that they know the Middle East and they know Islam and they know the others far better than we do. And I'm sorry, but that's pure ignorance.
The political correctness, is that going to be the death of our societies around the world?
It is the current beginning of the death. It's already happening. There are areas in France where Christians cannot walk freely. President Macron has come out saying that the Islamist movements want to secede from France. This is a leader of a country telling you that he has lost control. He's admitting finally that he has lost control. There are serious agendas being played in that region. Look, I am a Muslim, but I cannot live in an Islamist theocracy. When we come to the West trying to warn the governments and intelligence agencies about what is happening, about the people we fled from, we have this new political correctness agenda that tells us, oh, we're the racists, we're the ones who are traitors, and the extremists needs to be understood and embraced, and they have a point, let's listen to them. And sooner or later, they're in parliament, they're in government, attacking Jews, attacking Christians, and this is just the beginning. So if Christians don't wake up, Christian leaders don't wake up, then we Muslims who fled from extremists can't help you anymore. We tried warning you.
There are 1.2 billion Muslims in the world today. Of course, not all of them are radicals. The majority of them are peaceful people. The radicals are estimated to be between 15 to 25%, according to all intelligence services around the world. That leaves 75% of them peaceful people. But when you look at 15 to 25% of the world Muslim population, you're looking at 180 million to 300 million people dedicated to the destruction of Western civilization. That is as big of the United States. So why should we worry about the radicals, 15 to 25%? Because it is the radicals that kill. Because it is the radicals that behead and massacre. When you look throughout history, when you look at all the lessons of history, most Germans were peaceful, yet the Nazis drove the agenda. And as a result, 60 million people died, 14 million in concentration camps, 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most Japanese were peaceful as well. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly killed with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On September 11th in the United States, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, 19 radicals to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 Americans that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant.
Last night, sections of the British media were reporting as fact that it was Israeli rockets that had landed and attacked the Ali hospital, relying on information supplied by officials in terrorist-controlled Gaza. The headlines have since been rewritten, but the outpouring of Jew hate on social media overnight was vile. So would the Prime Minister please make the point again that the way that this conflict is being reported has massive implications for our Jewish community, and that any information coming from Hamas must be treated with a degree of scrutiny and cross-examination that is sadly sometimes lacking.
Can I commend my right honourable friend for his excellent intervention? He is absolutely right.
Touch with Israel. And if he's not careful, somebody will end up stabbing Israel in the back. And we can't let that happen. Listen, Israel is our ally. That means we are supposed to scratch each other back, have each other back. And guess what? We stand with Israel. We will always have their back.
We are here to support the cause of the Jewish community. I'm Iranian, living in Vancouver, and that's the least we can do, come here and show our support for what happened on weekend.
Yeah, I spoke to some people and they were kind of confused that Iranian government is supporting
yes,
Hamas.
Iranian government is different from Iranian people. Iranian government is just not actually, they are occupying Iran for 44 years, and what they're doing in Iranian is worse than what happened over the weekend in Israel. For 44 years, they've been killing innocent people. 4 years ago, in 2 days, they massacred 1,500 young Iranians, and nobody says anything. So these people, they love blood.
This is a tweet from Elisa Laban, who is an Iranian activist and lawyer. This is what she said today. I have to say something right now because I won't be able to live with myself if I don't. For years, I spoke up for the people of Palestine and their right to self-determination and to live in peace. For years, nobody cared. For years, Iranians have spoken up against their terrorism and brutality at the hands of the IRGC. For years, nobody cared. For years, I had felt we shared the same unnerving struggle, which is the world's indifference to the loss of our lives. Over the past week, however, I've seen something that I'm ashamed to say I had never seen before, and I can't believe what it took for me to see it. When Jews are murdered, the world is not just indifferent. Instead, the world rejoices. It celebrates. This is a type of depravity no people should ever have to endure, especially given the barbaric history of persecution since time immemorial. To the Jewish community, you are my brothers and sisters. I am so sorry that I let you down. I am so sorry I didn't stand up with you. I am so sorry I pretended not to see the flagrant and hateful anti-Semitism. But my eyes are open and I see you now. I hear you, I'm with you, and I promise to never let you down again.
Because you are a really thoughtful person, and your whole career and your public intellectualism is based on complex thoughts. Is there a moral maze? Is there an ability to hold two thoughts at one time? That slaughter is the worst thing that could have happened, and that everybody has the right to live with rights and dignity.
Yes.
I am talking about the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinian people for 75 years and 56 under occupation.
Yes, and this is the big challenge, that it should be possible to understand that you can be victim and perpetrator at the same time. That this is what happens to most people in history, most nations in history. They are sometimes victims, they are sometimes perpetrators, they are sometimes both at the same time. But this is a kind of complexity. When you stand thousands of kilometers from the conflict, you can see it. But for the people on the ground, it is impossible. It is just psychologically impossible.
Now or ever.
You have built 500 kilometers of tunnels in Gaza. Why haven't you built bomb shelters where Palestinian civilians can hide during bombardment? And here's how Hamas responded.
These tunnels are meant to protect us from the airplanes. We are fighting from inside the tunnels. Everybody knows that 75% of the people in the Gaza Strip are refugees. And it is the responsibility of the United Nations to protect them. Afghanistan sacrificed millions of martyrs to defeat the USSR and then the US. The Algerian people sacrificed 6 million martyrs over 130 years. The Palestinian people are just like any other nation. No nation is liberated without sacrifices.
The calls for compromise a far cry from this warning that sent shockwaves around the world. Hamad saying the Hamas terror attack on October 7th was just the first, and that there will be a second, third, and fourth attack on Israel. But how can you ask for a ceasefire? How can you ask for Israel to stop their aggression when you go on television in Lebanon here last week and say that you will continue your aggression? You will continue to launch October 7th again and again and again.
What do you want us to do? To stop?
If you're asking for a ceasefire.
I'm talking that we want to continue against occupation. This is our national, our legal right to fight against occupation. It is according to international law, according to all the regulation in the world. It is in Europe you fight against the Nazis.
But then what happened on October 7th when there were clearly civilians who were killed? How would that make you a good partner to a peace negotiation with Israel?
I don't have any details about this.
In 2009, in the Congress, on the floor in Congress, I'll let them play this. He is saying that Israel basically created Hamas to fight Yasser Arafat, and that we had a kind of a plan.
If you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat. We want free elections.
Yeah.
So we encourage the Palestinians to have a free election. They do, and they elect Hamas.
And they got Hamas.
So we first, indirectly and directly through Israel, help establish Hamas. Then we have election. Then Hamas becomes dominant, so we have to kill them. You know, it just doesn't make sense. During the 80s,
that's it. You can stop right there. But Pat, like what a point where they kind of created it to fight Yasser Arafat, but then at the same token, it's like you created a monster.
I mean, we did the same thing with the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Bingo. He was going to get there too.
Bin Laden.
Perfect point.
Yep.
Anna, he was just about to go there. We start like we're creating these monsters, and then we go, oh my God, the monster did monster things.
Many residents there are too frightened to speak out publicly anyway about life under Hamas. That atmosphere of fear is the driving force behind an innovative project called Whispered in Gaza. It's a secure outlet for Gazans to speak candidly through altered voices. Here are some examples.
هم دخلوا علينا ب 2007 بكلمة إصلاح والتغيير. وما دخلوا علينا بالإصلاح والتغيير هم في النهب بالسرقة بالظلم بالمهانة بالواسطة. فيش أي مشروع صغير حتى لو كشك دخان أو مشاريب ساخنة أو باردة إلا وحاطة إيدها فيه إلا بدها تاخد منه. حقيقة المقاومة صارت تجارة. موضوع الحروب اللي صارت في غزة من 2008 و2012 و2014 و2020 هذه كلها ربح. اللي بياكلها بس الشعب. الناس اللي بنضربوا الشعب اللي بيتأذوا بس الشعب. كل ما صار حرب كل ما دخلت مساعدات أكتر كل ما هم
لما تطلع على الشارع تلاقي الحيطان صور القيادات شعاراتهم صورهم قصصهم ويعني تحس انك انت في منطقة حرب انت عايش في ثكنة عسكرية ولا عايش في مدينة تسيء بالجو العام. المدينة غير الحضارية، غير الإنسانية، غير المدنية. في أي لحظة يبدأ القصف عليها، صواريخ طالعة، صواريخ نازلة، اضرب رد وهكذا، مهيئين هيك، مما أدى إلى انهزام داخلي وخراب نفسي عظيم. المواطن الفلسطيني في غزة غير سوي نفسيا. إنك تحكي أنا مستعد للموت ومستعد للشهادة، هذه الانهزامية وفقدان قيمة الحياة، هذا مؤشر خطير بيحكي إنه الناس هذه ماتوا.
كمواطن عايش بهالمجتمع كيف تحلمي فيها لغزة؟
أول شيء إنه يكون في مساحة للناس تسافر وترجع وتيجي، أنه يبطل الدين هو معيار الحكم الأساسي اللي بيحكم فيه على كل تفاصيل الحياة. اللي بده يصلي يصلي، اللي ما بده يصلي ما يصلي، اللي تشرح الحجاب تشرح، واللي ما بدها هي حرة. غزة اللي يكون فيها دور سينما، الدور اللي حرقوها الإخوان لساتها موجودة فيرجعوا يعمروها. بدنا بارات. عنا إحنا في غزة كل 500 متر في مسجد. هاي المساجد يتم تحويلها لمؤسسات تفيدنا. بدنا غزة تشبه تل أبيب، تشبه القدس، تشبه القاهرة. بدي ما يكون في حروب، ما يكون في صواريخ. أنا والشعب الإسرائيلي شعب واحد، لا يرى بأنه أي حدا من غزة ولا من فلسطين ولا من الجانب الإسرائيلي يستحق هاي الظروف من الخوف والرعب، إنه إحنا كلنا لازم نعيش بسلام.
Tensions in the West Bank continue to rise. To date, a large number of Palestinians have been killed since Hamas terrorized Israel on October 7th. This is the UN and human rights groups warn that violence there has risen rapidly, with Israeli settlers accused of harassing Palestinians with near impunity in an escalating cycle of violence.
God, who created the whole universe and created this world, and he wrote the Bible, if he says in the Bible, I want the children of Israel to live in the land of Israel, so for me, that's not only an imperative, it's an invitation.
What's your response when you hear, that under international law, settlements are considered illegal?
Well, the Bible trumps international law. Palestinians can say whatever they want, but the fact is there is no such thing as a Palestinian people.
The UN says over 900 Palestinians in the occupied West Bank have been displaced since October 7th. Whole villages forced to leave their homes under the threat of settler intimidation, harassment, and violence. Videos released by human rights groups showing these bulldozers used to block roads and destroy olive trees.
We all know that in the background there is the unresolved status of the Palestinians. There are over 4 million people on the West Bank, in Gaza, in Israel itself, in East Jerusalem, and they live in, I cannot call it ontological limbo. It's not clear what they are. Even the name of the territory is not clear. What horrifies me is there are two narratives, opposed, radical, which in an uncanny, terrifying way echo each other. On the one hand, there is the Hamas narrative, their leader, Haniyeh, who said, message to Israel, go out, we will kill you if you remain, you don't belong here. But then if you look at the first principle officially published of the new Netanyahu government is all of Jewish land, Judea, Samaria, Golan Heights, and so on, is exclusively a Jewish land. So it's symmetrical idea of there is no place for the other. What really, as friend of the Jews and of Palestinians, I see really, it scares me, again, a new wave of anti-Semitism. It will, I see very clearly anti-Semitism where there is one. And what horrifies me is this identification of that anti-Semitism as the result of this war will be elevated into one of the main markers of anti-colonial struggle.
If I understand your scientific work correctly, you've contributed a great deal to our understanding of our phylogenetic inheritance, our inborn capacities. And our phylogeny appears to have an extraordinary capacity to organize people into identities of friend and foe, us and them, and even chimpanzee communities patrol their borders and they kill strangers. And so the rules of the game in forming the states, all states, is to shore up ethnic power, to subjugate all rival groups, or to ethnically cleanse rival groups. It seems to be the rules of the game in terms of building the state. So Jews have been victims of that logic in Europe and throughout the Middle East. They've been ethnically cleansed in both locations. And Jews, as Israelis, have been perpetrators of this kind of logic. And so I'm very interested what kind of a vision you have for the Jewish presence in the Levant.
Well, first of all, I'd be very cautious about anything that's said about basic human nature or chimpanzee nature.
Okay.
On chimpanzee stories, it's been mostly exploded. Chimpanzees pretty much get along with each other until Europeans come in and start eliminating the grazing grounds and setting up competition. Chimpanzee stories are quite different. In fact, equally close to us genetically and in evolution are bonobos, who are called nature's hippies. They cooperate. They're maternal matrilineal societies, friendly, cooperative, and even chimpanzees are nowhere near as harsh and brutal as claimed. But as far as humans are concerned, plenty of cooperation. Just take a look at the recent history of Europe. For centuries, the highest goal of French and Germans was to slaughter each other. One of the most vicious, violent regions of the world. Major war after major war. 17th century, about a third of the population of Germany was wiped out on religious wars. Goes on, up until 1945. 1945, they realized it's got to end. We can't go on like this. It happened in one generation after centuries of savage mutual slaughter. I think that indicates the possibilities that human nature provides.
מי שהיה קרבי בניינדיז יכול בקלות ספר כמה חרא הוא אכל בעזה, לי יש גם סיפור אחר, סיפור שעוד לא סיפרתי ושנים שהוא איתי, חנוק אצלי בין 1000 זיכרונות וסיוטים על אבנים, בקבוקים, קרשים, ואני גם זוכר איך הפילו עלינו פעם מגג בניין מקרר. הוא נופל בחבטה פחות ממטר מאחוריי, בלעתי רוק, המשכתי במשימה שלא זכור לי מהי, אולי יוצאנו חשוד מהבית, בדמי הליל, הזיקון על הידיים, פלנלית על העיניים, בצדק או בטעות, כי היה שם הכל מהכל, הצלחות ואסונות, סלט אחד גדול, אולי היינו בדרכנו להשכיב מערב מול המסגד, שוכבים מול הכניסה, מנסים לסתום את האף, לנשום בלי להריח, לא להכניס את הסרחה, לא לראות אך בראשים 60 סנטים הולכים עליך, ואסור לך לזוז, אסור לך למצמץ, המדים נדבקים, אסור לך לגרבץ, רק לקוות שהשחר כבר יפציע אל על, ותוכל לחמוק בחסותו ישר למאהל, פחד ותיעוב בכל סמטה, לימוד אלימות, אכול שנאה, כמה שיט אכלנו בכפית, שתינו בקשית מתוך פחית של התחתית של התחתית. אשנב פנימי נפתח וזיכרון מתחיל לזרום, זה היה מזמן כל כך ולא הולך לשום מקום, קבור בתוך הנשמה עד שמתפרץ פתאום, מכאב להנחה לטקסט ואז למיקרופון, בן 5 נהרג מכדור שאמור היה להיות לרגליים, המגד אוכל אבן בפה ואפות לו 7 שיניים, חייל איבד את זה והוריד למישהו קסדה לקודקוד, ממם מודח כי שכח ממקוב בבגז של פז'ו, משעתי לשייח רדואן ועד שכונת רימל, מואזינים שזיהיתי לפי הפיץ' והסטייל, מפחד בלי הפסקה ומשחק אותה לא נבהל, מרודף לנרדף לרדוף במעגל, וכך יום יום שעה שעה דקה דקה, שגרת אלימות שלעולם לא מפסיקה. אבל ראיתם על זה סרטים וקראתם על זה ספרים, והבטחתי לכם סיפור שאתם לא מכירים. 1 בנובמבר 91, מדריד בירת ספרד, מנהיגים ערבים ויהודים לראשונה סביב שולחן אחד, אופטימיות בלתי נתפסת, אנשים מתחילים לדמיין אופק אחר לאזור הזה, אופק לא מדמם, ואנחנו תקועים בעזה, בוהים בטלפסיון, שהייתה שחור לבן לפחות אצלי בזיכרון, עד שהגיעה השעה שבה יצאנו לפטרול, מחסנים בהכנס אפוד ואז הלם אחד גדול, כי אותם הרחובות של הפגנות ומעצרים התמלאו פתאום קריאות שמחה בים של חוגגים, אותן הידיים שרגמו אותנו באבנים השליחו הפעם אורז, ממתקים וענפי זיתים. נחלאים במדים ברחוב הראשי בתוך המון מריע, לא ידענו מה לחשוב, לא רצינו להפריע, אבל זה קרה ואני הייתי שם ברגע שבו נשלח מסר חד וברור שאף פעם לא הגיע. אחרי שנים של וויד ואלכוהול ובהתחשב בגיל כבר לא הייתי משוכנע שהסיפור הזה פוריל, לא ידעתי להגיד אם הכל קרה בכלל עד שהוזמנתי להופעה מול פורום קציני מטכ"ל. סיפרתי את מה שזכור לי וביקשתי להבין אם מישהו מהקודקודים מולי עבר דברים דומים. התברר שלא רק בעזה אלא בכל רחבי השטחים פלסטינים ביום הזה כיתתו את החרב לעיתים. הכמיהה לשלום שהייתה פה לא הייתה רשומה רק עלינו בטאבו, כמו דלי שתקווה שעתה בו עד שרגל גסה בעתה בו. זה קרה רק פעם אחת ומאז זה לא קורה, ויש פה מה ללמוד מלא אבל אף אחד לא רוצה. בסוף המפגש סיימתי את הבירה בחדר האומנים, יצאתי ופתאום הרמטכ"ל עומד מולי. אולי תכתוב על זה שיר, אמר, זה ואלס עם שענן. אז הנה, השיר כאן.